to tell you a little bit about a piece that I wrote for the Salastina Music Society, which is a group out in Pasadena, California, which is not too far from me, about an hour away. So the Salastina Music Society asked myself and 3 other composers to write pieces based upon the different seasons of the year, because they were planning on playing all of Antonio Vivaldi's 4 seasons, and they wanted brand new pieces to go alongside of those works. The interesting thing is that we had to use all the original instruments that were in his piece, and just like in his work, we had to find poems to go with our music. I wrote my piece about autumn or fall, and I actually chose to write my piece about what autumn is like here in Southern California. Now often here in SoCal, as we call it, we tend to get a lot of fires from the dry weather. And so my piece is actually divided into 3 movements, or 3 parts, and I picked 3 different poems to go with each movement. The first movement is it kind of gives us a picture of what the wind is like and how spooky that can be sometimes, especially when we're, worrying about like what might happen when the wind, causes sparks and wildfires. The second movement is about what it's like after a fire and how devastating or how sad that can be. And at the end of that movement, the poem kind of gives us a little bit of hope, that things will get better. And the third movement is about the first rain, what it's like when our autumn actually starts to feel like, a little cooler and like the autumn that you tend to see on TV, where there's, leaves and rain and things like that. We don't tend to get that until much later in the year, because we're known for our very, very hot weather. So I want to share with you just a little bit about how I wrote First Rain, or the music to go with that poem First Rain, which is by Donna Emerson. And often when I write, I tend to improvise or make up music on my instrument. So sometimes it's my viola, sometimes I improvise on my violin, and sometimes I will, play around on the piano and figure something out. When I was improvising for this piece, in order to come up with ideas to write, I actually, the first image that came to mind are, just little droplets of rain coming in little by little. And I was trying to think of what kind of sound on my instrument sounds like rain. The first thing that came to mind is pizzicato, or plucking a string with my fingers, right? Many of you guys know how to do pizzicato. Some of you do that when you first learn how to play your string instrument. But I also wanted to kind of give a picture of like when it rains, one of my favorite things is to have it be raining, but also like the sunlight is kind of glaring through the clouds just a little bit, and it's sparkly and shiny, and you start to get a rainbow. And so I wanted the picture of rain, but also the light that can come with it, I didn't want like the dark, gloomy kind of sad rain. And so I also used a technique called a harmonic, which is when you put your finger lightly on the string and you don't press all the way down. Now the interesting thing is harmonics only happen in certain spots on your fingerboard. They don't happen everywhere you would normally put a finger. So this is a normal 4th finger E. This is a harmonic. You hear how the sound changes even though I didn't move that much? I just lifted my finger off the fingerboard a little bit. So then I started playing around with some pizzicato and harmonics. It's a little tricky to get to work. And that's the sound of rain that I really wanted. So when you listen to the piece, you'll hear a lot of the string instruments doing pizzicato, with harmonics. The viola actually has this line. So I invite you to listen to all three movements of Fire Season, but especially the last movement along with the poem. You'll hear in the recording, you'll hear myself saying the poem at the actual performance of the piece. So listen to it, use your imagination, and I hope you really enjoy Fire Season.